Well, Leonard, it's so good to have you on Startup Sunday. We are so excited to talk to you about digital marketing, about marketing and advertising in general. Let's give a brief overview and background for our listeners. So tell us who Leonard Shiner is.
So I am a digital marketing and business consultant. What I do is I focus on primarily service-based businesses, and I help them build their brand, track their ideal customer, and really set them up for success where they've got a really good platform to go forward.
So you are a digital marketing guru then, right? Just to kind of summarize everything you do. Yeah. Awesome. So just to start this session, tell us, why is digital marketing important for new businesses?
So digital marketing is something that came about with the internet, right? Before the internet, no one digitally marketed themselves because digital didn't really exist. So traditionally, businesses would do lots of marketing activity, whether that's a bus ad or something in the newspaper, right? That was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now in digital marketing, we're able to reach a lot more people at a lower cost, and we're able to be more effective because often we're only talking to the people that would be our ideal customer. And then even furthermore, we can track how efficient our marketing dollars are being spent. So for a digital marketer like myself, the whole internet age and the digital age of things has really allowed us to be more analytical and a little bit less speculative in the work that we do.
In small businesses in general, I feel like that's a very tough type of business to be working with. They probably have very tricky challenges, and they probably have to increase revenue as soon as possible. So tell us a little bit more about, first of all, what attracts you to small businesses, and why did you choose to interact with those types of clients versus everyone else?
Small businesses are the backbone of America. I mean, really plainly said, small businesses are what support every local community that you can find. So having a direct impact and being able to work with that type of client myself, I feel like I can have a greater impact on people's individual lives, especially service-based businesses. So we're talking lawyers, hairstylists, chiropractors, dentists, massage therapists, acupuncture, like any type of service-based business, right? Mm-hmm. So you can span the gamut from lawyers to acupuncture, right? But at the end of the day, both of them are providing a service to an individual. And for each of them, whether you're a doctor or an acupuncturist, you have to do a few things, right? Mm-hmm. So the three keys to selling and to communicating a sales message is that the person receiving it knows, likes, and trusts the person providing it. So one of the key things for a small business, like you said, is generating that revenue up front. So there's two large types of marketing. One is awareness marketing, and that's just getting your brand out there and getting people aware of who you are. And then there's direct response marketing, and digital is part of the direct response. Service-based businesses, especially smaller businesses, you probably want to focus in the direct response. You want to have one action that you want your client or your potential client or customer to take, and that's what you're communicating to them.
Awareness marketing and direct response marketing. So whenever you're building awareness around your brand or your service or whatever it is that you're putting out there as part of your business, what are some of the key basic things that you need to get down for that marketing strategy to be successful?
So awareness marketing is what I call like the feel-good marketing. So business owner will say, I really need to get the word out there about my business. So I'm going to take X action, right? Whatever that is. They're going to do some type of advertising, but there's no strategy behind it. It's simply them doing something in the hope that it achieves business, or in the hope that it achieves some response from the customer. So that's great. And sometimes it does accomplish their goal. Sometimes they get business from it, which is really the catch-22, because they're over here in feel-good land, but they're getting results. So then they get confused by, well, I'm just going to keep feeling my way through this. And that's a dangerous and slippery slope. And I encounter that with most clients that I work with. So they think that their marketing is good because they are getting results. But what they don't understand is that they could be getting much greater results if they had strategy. So I choose to focus mostly on the strategy part of the business, whether that's marketing or branding or whatever. I'm looking at the strategy component and saying, where are you today and where do you want to be, right? Where are your goals? And then let's work backwards and find out how to get you there. Sometimes I say it's a catch-22, it's a slippery slope because they're reluctant to change. You know, if something's working, it might not be working well, but if it's working a little bit, you're so attached to that you don't want to switch. You don't want to go and do something else because you don't know what results you're going to get.
Audience is very important. And do all of your clients know who their audience is? I feel like that's also another challenge that at least, a lot of businesses are faced with.
So digital marketing, I believe, includes a little bit of branding. And the branding phase is where you would be defining who your market is, who are you talking to, where do they live, right, online. So if we're talking specifically about digital marketing, do they live on Instagram? Do they live on LinkedIn? Do they live on Facebook? Where are they? And it's not just where they live, but where they like to hang out, right? So I see that, if I'm putting my marketing hat on, I see that differently, and I recognize the traits in each of them that would say, okay, they're more of a YouTube person, they're more of an Instagram type person. And then if we want to kind of zoom out from that concept, that type of people, that niche of audience would mainly be on YouTube, or that niche of audience would mainly be on Instagram.
Yeah, I completely understand that, because I mean, even when we are thinking about marketing strategies, we know maybe, Instagram is more hip and more fashion forward type of audience, and, younger, and typically between 16 to 35 is the age range. So yeah, that completely makes sense. Let's say a business owner or an entrepreneur is getting ready to just start their marketing efforts, and they want to get the help of a consultant or a marketing agency. What are the first steps they should take to kind of be prepared before they even go and meet with a consultant?
A founder or an early age startup is looking for help in their business, whether that's from an agency or a marketing consultant. I would first be very clear on what your goal is. So if you're a startup, especially early age, you're probably bootstrapping a lot of the costs of your new venture. So in bootstrapping, you have to be super strategic with where you spend money. That being said, I probably would not do anything in the awareness marketing, because that's just going to let people know who you are, but it's not really going to drive any revenue, which is then going to give you more fuel to propel your business forward. So I think of your business as a vehicle. And so to get that vehicle down the road, what do we need? We need tires and oil and gas. So you as the business owner are going to be putting the tires on, right? You're going to be where your vehicle meets the road, you're going to do that. You're going to be shaking hands, making introductions, right? And then you're going to be running things along the way, which is operations. That's your oil. That's how you keep going. But then at some point, you need more gas. You need more customers to be able to keep going forward. So where I see that coming in is being very strategic and specific about what customers you want, right? What type of gas are you looking for? You don't want to spend your money going after an audience that won't buy from you or who doesn't need your product. But if you're spending money strategically going after the audience that will either buy your product, share your product, engage with your content, whatever the end goal of the marketing is, that's what's going to propel your business forward.
As a founder, as an entrepreneur, this is where the challenge comes for a lot of them, not knowing where they want to go. Because I feel like, yeah, everybody end goal is I want higher revenue, I want more customers, but at the same time, it's almost like chicken versus egg, like, you know.
Right.
And I feel like this is something that through our interviews, we ask this question a lot, like, what marketing strategies you have. And a lot of them, they don't. They just rely on word of mouth and their community and the people around them, which is great. That's perfect. That's perfectly okay to rely on those in the early stages. But at some point when you want to scale, then that's where you rely on the strategies, the foundations. These are really good points for our audience to also think about. What are their goals before they come meet with an expert like you?
You talked a little bit about businesses taking advantage of the free platforms like Google Places or Yelp, and then you moved on and talked about social presence. That could be a little challenging, especially for early stage startups. They're spending a lot of time just figuring out their next move, and just simply put, too many social platforms right now that people are on. There's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, this, that, Snapchat, even I know some businesses even use Snapchat. So how can businesses decide which is the correct platform for them to focus on?
I love that question because that is such a frequent question, and oftentimes business owners and even people really feel like you have to be on every platform that's out there so you can talk to everybody who might possibly want to interact with you. And so from that, I always turn the question back around and I say, well, what are you most comfortable on? And if we're talking with service-based businesses, you're usually talking to one person or maybe a few people. So it's very human in the approach that they're taking to promoting their business. So what do they feel most comfortable on? Do they feel really comfortable on video? Then great. YouTube sounds like a good platform for you. Are you really focused on long form content with a little bit of imagery? Great. Facebook sounds like it might be a match for you. Or are you more focused on just the aesthetics and the style and very photography driven, which then I would say Instagram, right? That's from a pure, what are you comfortable at? Then I would blend that also with where are your customers? And maybe that's a little bit more important. If all your customers are on one of the platforms and that's not where you're comfortable, then it becomes a challenge and an opportunity for growth within yourself to just be more comfortable on that type of platform. So Facebook and Instagram are probably the two largest that people turn for advertising to. YouTube a little bit as well, but again, that takes another of effort for people and businesses to do. Yeah. So Facebook and Instagram, right? LinkedIn is great for B2B. Snapchat is great for something else, I'm sure. But if we're just looking at Instagram and Facebook, they're both owned by Facebook. And from a marketing standpoint, if I'm going to do marketing on Instagram, I go to the Facebook Business Manager. If I'm going to do advertising on Facebook, I use the Facebook Advertising Manager. So you can manage both platforms from the Facebook side of things. So those are very much so intertwined. Facebook has an older audience. Typically, we're scaling women 40s and up. Instagram, you're looking at more the millennial, younger generation up through maybe your 30s. And of course, there's some overlap there, but usually Instagram is going to skew much younger than Facebook is much older.
Basically, look at where your audience is and look at what type of media you're most comfortable with.
And speaking of social media platforms and having a presence on hopefully the right platform for your business, how about content? Generally, different creative ways that people are building content, but Tell us maybe the few most important ones that everybody that is trying to build a presence on those, let's say Instagram and Facebook for them.
So content creation and content marketing is one of the fastest growing sectors of digital marketing. So Adobe and eConsultancy came out with a study back in 2017 that said content marketing is growing at an exorbitant rate, right? A huge rate, more over than brand building or automation or any of the other like analytics, any of those things that are being looked at. Content is being looked at way more than that. And so as far as content creation goes, I would ask myself two things. I would say, what do I want to tell my person? And then what do I want to compel them to do? And so telling them is based on the message, right? What do I want to share with them about my business that's going to be meaningful? Because if I share a novel with them, no one has time for that. So very concise with the messaging and very concise with the copy that's being shared with them. Secondly, what am I asking them to do? I see billboards all the time that just have a brand name and it's like, great, but what do you want me to do, right? Where's my engagement? So when we're looking at content, we want content that's engageable and shareable. That's how content is made viral. If you can share it and share it and share it. So same thing in any part of advertising, it has to be something you can engage with. So what's your call to action usually is what it's referred to. So if I'm looking at any type of advertising, there should be one clear action that me as the consumer knows to take. So that's tap this link, that's call this number, that's visit this website, that's go here to do this, whatever that may be. You've got 7 seconds to get the attention. You have to convey the message and convey the action in 7 seconds. You get to choose one message and you get to choose one action.
I really like that. You mentioned some content that goes viral. So I'm always so curious as like to understand what makes a video of a cat go viral when there's 1,000 other videos of cats that do not go viral.
So what is viral content? It's shareable and it's engageable, right? So not only do I get something from it, I'm like, this is very funny. I want to be the person that my friends hear about this from. Or I want to be the person that shares this first, right? So if it's engageable and shareable, that's how we're going to achieve virality. So there's 3 main ways that we can achieve that. 1, we're going to challenge assumptions. So if people know or people are made aware that they're thinking right about something, they're inclined to listen more because we all want to be validated. Let's be real. Secondly, if we think that we're thinking wrong about something, we want to know because we want to have an aha moment, you know? So those 2 things, it's a challenge on your standing assumption. So that's 1. 2, another way to make content viral is telling a story that's compelling. Now, how viral is one story versus another, that depends on the story. But we're going to tell a story that plants emotions or thoughts or something that conveys a human approach. So I don't go around, and none of us go around interacting with walls because they don't give us anything back. But if we go to our pet, they give us something back. If we go to another human, it gives us something back. If I go to a brand, it needs to give me something back as well. That's where we create that brand essence and that brand perception, right? It's how we interact with the brand. And then the third way to get something to go viral, so we're going to be unique in how we're going to do this. Now, people say, well, what is unique? Cool, is that we're all unique in and of ourselves, right? Like our passions and what we are interested in, that's what makes us unique. Why did we challenge an assumption, whether that's right or wrong? Tell a story that takes a human approach, right? You're going to plant some type of emotion or an idea, and then have a unique perspective. And also, that's not new advice. People always say, follow your passion, be yourself, be unique. And that sounds really great in concept. And I think everyone kind of gets that in concept. But being able to apply that, that's a whole other ballgame. And so that's where a marketing consultant or even someone like a trusted person within your circle who you can bounce ideas off of really lends you some insight, right? Because you're looking at a different lens. I like to use the saying, you can't see the label of the jar that you're in. And so many times, and I struggle with this, so many times people are great and they're awesome and they do this and they do that, but they don't know who they are. And everyone from the outside says, oh, you're this, that, and the other thing, right? But they don't ask for feedback. So one of the key things, especially when you're starting up as a business, go talk to your customer. Ask them, if I could solve a problem for you, what would that be, right?
I want to jump into something we struggle with a lot, and that's a marketing budget. And I feel like this is very broad. It's definitely going to vary depending on client and size and industry. But as somebody that interacts with clients on a daily basis, what is your advice to founders and early stage startups to setting a good budget?
So like you said, that varies so much. Depends on what industry you're in. It depends on what your personal budget, if you're self-funding in the beginning, what your personal budget is, and also a little bit about what the market determines your budget should be. So depending on what industry you're in, there's industries that spend more, there's industries that spend less, right? So I like to work with the brand or the professional who's starting their business and say, let's not worry about the cost of marketing. Let's worry about the strategy of marketing. So when you're first starting out, I would say spend a little bit of money on branding so that you have that online presence and you can have a cohesive appearance across platforms, whether that's your one-page landing site or a website or any of your online social media profiles or any of your business profiles like Yelp or Google Places. Make sure that everywhere you're conveying the same type of message and feel. I would say that that's kind of one, right? If you're building a house, you build a foundation, the brand is your foundation. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to start doing some marketing, which are kind of your sticks or your framing. So from your foundation, from your great branding, then you're going to build up and say, how do we maximize this? So I would say, where is your target audience? And again, where do you feel comfortable?
I think we're getting close to the top of the hour. I wanted to just hand it back to you and ask if you have any tips or advice or anything that our audience absolutely has to know or take away from this session.
So when we're looking at KPIs, which I think we mentioned that before, and for new business owners, they really want to know what their KPIs should be. And for those who don't know, a KPI is a key performance indicator. It basically tells us what metric we're going to look at to determine if this strategy, this campaign had success. So if we're looking at KPIs, for any new business, you're probably going to look at revenue, cash in the bank, or you might be looking at new customers. And by customers, I don't mean people who are interested in your business, but you're looking at people who you have their contact information. So they've transacted with your business in some way. They've either given their contact information as a lead or they've purchased something from you. So you've captured the contact information that way. So in direct marketing, I would look for new customers who have done business with the company, new revenue generated, or leads that have been captured. Awareness marketing is where you might waste some money because you're going to be looking at how large was our reach? How many impressions did we have? How many views? How many shares? That's all great information to know what level of engagement your brand is getting. But ultimately, if you have a lot of reach and a lot of impressions and a lot of views and a lot of shares, but no money in the bank, that's not a successful marketing campaign, at least not one that I'd like to be associated with. So why is digital marketing important? It's probably one of the cheapest and quickest ways to test and rework a single strategy before you get something that works, right? So with it being the most cheapest and the most effective, I would put more money towards digital marketing than any other avenue. Consistency is also something that the audience is going to expect from the business. So if a business has a great brand, let's assume that, and then even if they're not marketing, they're not spending money on marketing, but if you're just trying to build your Instagram profile, if you're just trying to build your YouTube channel, any of those require consistency. And what I mean by that is not to lock yourself into something that feels like you're being pressured to produce content, but lock yourself into something that you would enjoy doing. So have some consistency that you know that you can keep up. So let's take Instagram, for example. If I'm posting once a day, then I need to keep posting once a day, whatever the volume is. But I need to keep doing that and not disappear for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 months at a time. Because if I'm starting to build the brand, right, it's all about momentum. Business is all about momentum, especially branding. And so when you're building that momentum and people are like hungry for this content every day, they're like, I love it. It's a cool photo. It's a cool video. It's a cool quote. It's a cool whatever the content it is. I want to make sure that I'm putting out content consistently because the person might be coming to me every day looking for that type of content. So if I stop serving up good content, I'm going to stop having an engaged audience. Say you can only produce 30 pieces of content a month. I would say do 1 piece a day versus dumping 10 there and then another few days later dumping 10 and then dumping another 10. There's something to be said that people want to be curious. We're curious by nature. If you're building that curiosity and you're building that wondering momentum, people are going to keep coming back to you because they're hungry for that content. They're curious to know what else you have to say. So if they keep coming and your shop is closed, no one's going to come in. No one can engage with you. We mentioned like the 3 ways to go viral, but for a different type of business, the different content might be categorized differently. So if you're say you're a coach, whether it's a relationship coach or a fitness coach or anything like that, you might put out content on a regular basis. But in the back end, when you're developing that content, you're going to say, what are my content buckets? I'm going to have a bucket for quotes and inspiration. I'm going to have a bucket for client stories and client testimonials. I'm going to have a bucket for self-promotion. So why am I, as this fitness trainer, so great? I might also have a bucket for the community, right? So maybe things that I'm doing in the community, or those are just off the top of my head. But any business usually says, yeah, we do X, Y, and Z. Okay, X, Y, and Z become independent buckets. And then you can usually add some type of client-related bucket, and you can add some type of community bucket and some type of inspirational bucket. And so by the end of the day, when you're looking at all these buckets that you have, you're like, great, now I have 5 to 7 buckets. And now it's not as much of an issue to create content because I can look at, okay, quotes. I'm going to get, 10 quotes. Client testimonials, I'm going to get 10 testimonials. And so it makes the process a little bit more formulaic on the back end content creation side and a lot less overwhelming. And for most founders and people who are just getting started, that's where they have an issue because they want to talk, they want to say something, but they don't know what to say. And that's usually, it's like, be unique. Well, how do I be unique? Well, this gives you a little bit of a framework to do that. This is the type of work that I love because you're really putting systems into something that's creative. And the more systems you have, the more times you can spin that wheel and be creative and creative and creative. And that's how you create that momentum and the engagement, and how you build a brand.
Yeah, I really like that idea, actually. And it's very common sense when you say it, but it's just like, oh, how did I not think of that already?
It becomes overwhelming if you're not thinking about it. And I love the buckets idea, because it becomes overwhelming. It's like, so many different things I can do, so many different ideas. Where do I even start? And you end up with nothing, because it's not productive if you don't know where to start, or, you don't have those buckets down. Then it's just overwhelming. It's like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm going to close down the app, walk away.
How many people think that social media is stressful? Everyone, because there's this perceived responsibility that you have to post. At what other time other than present day has a business or a person had to express something every day? If you're a writer or you're a journalist, that's great, or a photographer, you are expressing every day. But never before in history has a person had to do that, let alone a business.
Yeah.
Businesses are just supposed to serve people and create revenue as an exchange of that, right? I give you a service, you give me revenue. It's a pretty clear exchange. But now there's this added thing to having a presence every single day, and that's possible. But there just has to be some strategy and some systems behind it so you don't make yourself bonkers.
Man, I really love that. With that, I wanted to ask, how can our audience, our listeners and our viewers, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way to reach you?
They can reach me on Instagram at Leonard Shiner, or on my website, leonardshiner.com.
Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. We got some amazing tips and advice from you.
Thank you both. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you, Leonard.